Everyone, welcome into the Luchador podcast. David Nuño and Billy Liucci here. This is presented to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. More on them in a minute. But the Aggies accept their invitation to the Las Vegas Bowl. First time they've played in that bowl, taking on USC. We'll break it all down here for a few minutes. But beforehand,
don't mind me.
You just came from, what do they go, Motor City?
Motor City.
I was going to say Mo City.
I didn't come from Missouri City.
The Motor City with the fourth down gambler himself, Dan Campbell.
I mean, hold on, let me get this hat off. This is just for effect. But I do like it.
Right there.
It's rare you're going plaid beanie, and I saw this and just felt like I had to have it, especially for January.
I like the grit hat. I like that.
Like that. There we go.
Yeah.
Grit. I look like a airport souvenir shop, walking souvenir shop. And Zane copied me with a grit hat.
It's a great hat. I might wear that hat.
On one of these days, you're going to see us in here as like the double grit brothers. But
you guys share in the love of a team. I love it.
So I brought Richard to Detroit. He didn't get invited last year, and as it turned out, for one of those games, we had an extra spot last minute, and I got back, and Zane kind of, and I said, all right, maybe one day. And the way it happened, I think I booked the flight to leave Thursday morning, left College Station at 7 a.m. We booked the flight Wednesday night. I was at dinner at about 8 p.m. We booked the flight. I booked a hotel at about 1 a.m. that night. We're on the road at 7 a.m. Surprisingly, Zane is a fast driver. Got us to the airport like within 5 minutes of them stopping boarding, so that was good. And same thing on the way back. We got there and we just never broke stride. I went right on the plane, so that timed it up. As I like to say, timed it up perfectly.
You live on the edge.
We were talking on the walk, like the brisk walk through the Detroit airport. It's like, we're lucky there was no line in security, or we actually would have missed this one. And then we said, could you imagine how much the nerd herd would have been panicking?
Oh, I would have stressed out in that one.
Oh, like you and Olin. Olin would have been just
Olin gets up 4 hours early.
Olin would have been out loud talking about, well, yeah, because we went to bed. The game was over late. We went to the MGM, put in some futures bets. And by the walk, by the time we, got back to the hotels like 2 a.m.
Right.
Zane said, it's not very far. I can see the casino from here. By the time we got there, Zane and I walking through the streets of Detroit at 1 in the morning. I didn't feel like I had a lot of backing. And then he said, well, maybe we should Uber back. I said, that's fine. Because it was like 18 degrees. But yeah, it was awesome. He loved it. I loved it. Game was incredible.
Yeah.
What's funny is I think I've been to 4 NFL games this year. I went to the biggest blowout of the year, which was Detroit at Dallas. The other 3 that I've attended have ended in 0-0-0 walk-off field goals. Texans, Bills, Texans, Lions, and Lions, Packers. So NFL's been exciting. That atmosphere, that environment, it's louder than Kyle Field in there. Now, I had to correct someone yesterday that were saying how loud the Georgia Dome was. It's in a roof. Yep. It is enclosed with a big thing over the top of it that traps the sound. But those games are so fun because Dan has brought, between Dan and his style and the way they love him and that team and how desperate they've been for a championship, and even before last year, playoff wins, it is a college feel. It's a party outside that stadium. It's plopped right in downtown. It's not like Reliant or Jerry World where you have to walk through a massive parking lot.
Right.
It's just
right there.
Everywhere around. It's right in the middle of downtown. Everywhere around are bars and, outdoor people outdoors at the restaurants. And it's just, it's a great atmosphere. I hope they do it for a lot of reasons, but they're a fun team to watch. They're likable. It's fun. There's always like the down on the sideline. I know I posted this stuff, but it was like, Chad Smith, the Red Hot Chili Peppers is there every time. Flavor Flav. Keegan-Michael Key, who was great. We had a mutual buddy, so we had to talk. I talked to Chad Smith, told him about the Lollapalooza back in the day, because Keegan-Michael Smith was like, man, I saw Chili Peppers in 1990 at a little bar here. And I said, I was at like the second Lollapalooza, which to me is the greatest concert of all time. Ice Cube, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. All in one. And you know where they were?
What?
Fort Bend County Fairgrounds. Text in anyone if you were at that concert. Fort Bend County Fairgrounds. That was I think it was the best concert ever. Good luck topping it. And then was the game. And that NFC is so tough. You see the Eagles win again today.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit sitting there with like an all-time winning streak. They've clinched a playoff berth. But you need those games at home. You don't want to go play at Green Bay on the road. You don't want to play in Minnesota in a playoff game on the road. You don't want to go to Philly. They need to play. It's just such a dogfight to get home field. So everything about that game was so intense. And then, you know, me and the fourth downs, man, I go with the ones, A&M, Texas, and then, you know, not to mention Auburn, South Carolina. Now I've got to go up to Detroit, and it's just a fourth down fest. And I had made a comment to Elko at some point this past week, maybe when he was in here, about the fourth downs just find you when you're, it's like 3rd and 7, you're going to gain 6. And that's what I felt like was happening to A&M as soon as they lost Le'Veon Moss. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that happens to Detroit just because the football gods are like, let's see what this guy does. And Zane will tell you when he came out after the game, that just the look on Dan's face of just like, he just had an ear-to-ear grin. And, you know, just we could talk all day about those decisions, but they're wild, but it's fun.
They're working.
And they're working because, well, look, I think in that instance, it was your defense is without half their guys at that point. Even Branch went down, and in the NFL, they get in the field goal range so quickly because those guys can kick them so far, and then you might never get the ball back. Does it still make sense from that standpoint? No, but I think his point was with Montgomery and Sewell and this O-line and Goff making the right decision, we can gain a yard. We can gain less than a yard and end the game right here, right now, and not leave anything up to chance. It's crazy. It's not conventional. I saw him. I said, "You're insane." But I was like, what was the logic behind it? And it's just, it's fun. It's different. It's refreshing. He's a gambler. It's the city has embraced it. You should see, like, just, yeah, like breakfast the next day, and people just, they're talking to him, and they're like, it's just so cool for Dan because he cares as much about that team and that city as they do him. And I think that's rare it's far less common in pro sports than it is college.
All right, transitioning, by the way, I did go to Academy today.
Without me.
Yeah, I did. But today I had to go. So
What'd you get?
Soccer cleats, but there's a story behind it. The puppies, you guys know I have a puppy. They're about a year old this week, and with us at least, they're over a year old now. They destroy everything. They're the worst dogs I've ever had. It? I love them. They're very well trained now, but if you give them an inch, they'll take 9. That's how it is. So Christian fell asleep last night.
But they won't take a mile, just 9 inches.
Sorry, they'll take let's use another number. They'll take a whole mile. Anyway, so Christian fell asleep on the couch. Puppies got into his soccer bag, destroyed the soccer bag, destroyed his Birkenstocks, and destroyed his soccer cleats. So high school season started, so we're going to go to Academy today, and that's a true story.
That's a lot of destruction.
Yeah, 2 puppies, and so that happened today. I'm a little disappointed about it. I
gave you a reason to go to Academy. Now I need to go because just need some winter gear. Yeah. I need to specifically gear up for maybe some future Detroit trips because that was just a little teaser. It was like
it's coming.
It was 18 degrees last year when it was 0. So, but also might need to go in there and get some Vegas attire. I don't know I don't know what
You get a silk shirt.
What do we get for
Night of the
Vegas?
Roxbury outfit.
I don't think you get it at Academy. So
Rayon.
rather than that, I was trying to segue into the game. No, but I'll go in there and get some. The weather's getting cooler. Even just walking the dog. I'll tell you what I need ASAP. I need to go in there and get some gloves. I need to get some winter gloves. Legitimately just for walking the dog. It gets so cold that you're just walking like this the whole time.
Yep.
So Academy, I'll be there soon. We've gone from needing a baseball glove to needing actual
winter
gloves. Yeah.
And you ready to party in Vegas with me? You haven't been to Vegas until you've gone to Vegas with David Nuño.
It's finally happened, hasn't it?
We're going to party.
It's finally happened where I get to go there and put it to the test and come back and tell everyone stories about you and Olin in Vegas and just the various, who went home when, who did what, who surprised, who
I'll stay out late
who
for
surprised,
Vegas.
who disappointed, who won money, who lost money. We have a lot to go on up there.
Well, we're going to have a football game on a Friday night, the 27th. We're going to watch a team. When's the last time? I think it was in the 70s. The last time A&M played
I think
USC.
they said 77. Was that it? Somebody said 75. Somebody on the board I think said 77. So
the last time these two fought or went against each other, 1977.
Yeah.
Where A&M fell 47-28.
I was a wee lad living in New York at the time. I was a year away from moving to Sugar Land, Texas.
The Bluebonnet Bowl at the Astrodome.
Oh wow.
1977. Last time these two played. I was looking, and I was
USC, I bet, was good back then. They must have had like somebody. Is that Rogers or is it White? Who is their running back? Anyway, Bell. I don't know. They have so many. But that's a little bit before Marcus Allen.
Well, in that year they went 8-4 with John Robinson as their head coach.
All right.
Clay Matthews Jr., the captain.
Linebacker.
Let's see. Don't have the roster other than Clay Matthews Jr. But anyway.
They're playing USC now.
They're playing USC now.
They're playing in a couple weeks.
About USC, what I find interesting is not that they've had a similar story, because they didn't. USC had that big part of their conference schedule where they couldn't get any wins. A&M went through a big win streak, but both lose their starting quarterback for different reasons. Well, the same reason. They both benched them.
Yeah.
They both benched, Connor Wigman got benched for Marcel Reed. And
Miller Moss.
Miller Moss got benched, and both guys had a lot of accolades heading into the season. I think it's going to be fun to take on a former Pac-12/Big Ten team. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, look, I think it's fun to start a season against a storied blue blood program like Notre Dame, and end the season with one like USC. Two of the most storied programs in college football history. It had been 20 plus years since A&M played Notre Dame. It's been basically 50 years since A&M's played USC. A fun year continues to be fun. Okay, I know we can save the argument for another day of, on the 1 to 10 scale of success, what you consider it. We've kind of beaten that into the ground the last week or so. But you can't tell me it hasn't been fun. And we all have the standards. The standard is to be in this thing called the playoff that we're going to talk about later. Listen, man, I don't need you, if you're one of these people that are trying to paint this as like, oh, we've accepted it's a stupid bowl. Nobody can. My point of this is saying this has been a fun first season, and there has been a degree of success. And if you win a bowl game to go 9-4 in year one, that just adds to it. Especially if in year one you could say, well, you've beaten LSU, you beat a top 10 Missouri team, you beat a top 10 LSU team, and then you beat USC. It's entertaining. It's been fun. You always want to do better. In year one, though, I think that would be a good, strong first season. Now, why has it been fun? Playing Notre Dame was a blast. That game was a blast till the end. Beating two top 10 teams at home, really fun, including LSU, and the way that game was, the way that Missouri game was.
Yep.
Blasting a team like that. 7-game win streak. Winning in the swamp on the road.
That was fun.
Marcel Reed's first start. Winning in Jerry World for the final time. Always fun. And then, the 7-game win streak, climbing into the top 10, having people talk about you as an SEC title contender. And I know they didn't live up to it and finish the job, but there was a point more than halfway into the conference schedule where people were wondering who was the best team in the league, A&M, Georgia, or Texas. And I understand that it did not turn out to be A&M. The games proved that. But that was part of this year as well. Then was we hated the end, but coming back from 21 down against Auburn and taking the lead and playing a 4-overtime game, and then that whole build-up to Texas where you're playing the Longhorns for a berth in the SEC title game. We could go through all the disappointment later. We know it. It's 3 losses to end the season. It's the performance against Notre Dame where you couldn't do anything. The offense in the first and last games, losing to Texas. The Auburn loss where if you win that game, you were playing Texas yesterday. But, man, if you think about how the season went, it was a fun season to follow, to cover, to be a fan of. There was a bit of a roller coaster, but you were generally up on that roller coaster there before the very end. And I think closing it out with, like, Cincinnati in Memphis or, Iowa State somewhere, or even like Iowa in the Music City, like to go play a name program. I was really hoping A&M, David, would play Michigan in Tampa or USC in Vegas. Just play a big name opponent with I'd say nothing to lose. You don't want to end the season on what would be a 3-game losing streak.
But they have similar challenges that we have, right?
Yeah, so you're playing a big name team, right? They're going to have opt-outs. They're going to have portal. They're going to have star players
NFL
that are holding out for the NFL. I prefer that over the program that doesn't have that. Even footing, go out there and play it. Yeah, you're going to have a percentage of guys that check out, but that's the case all over big-time college football. And the only reason you wouldn't want to play in Michigan is because that comparison head-to-head that's coming.
Right.
But I wanted a big-name opponent. I wanted to start with Notre Dame and end with USC or Michigan when that possibility presented itself. I didn't want somebody that, we just, as fans and maybe even players, just don't get up for as much. I don't think this is the case at all. I think you see USC, you see the Trojans, you see those colors, you think Lincoln Riley, you think about all those Heisman trophies, you think about Leinart and Bush, and you think about Pete Carroll and John Robinson and Marcus Allen. I know the kids on the team don't, but this bowl game to me feels like more of a reward than going to play Northwestern or Oklahoma State in Houston with a fired coach, or to go play Wake Forest in Charlotte with a fired coach. Like, this feels fun. This feels like something you can build on, and I don't think either team, will have an advantage in terms of, oh man, nobody even wants to play. I think both teams will have to be dealing. Elko and Riley will have to be dealing with some of the same stuff. So and it's Vegas, so I'm fired up about it. The goal's always the playoff. The goal is for Mike Elko and this program moving forward, is to break through. And they didn't break through in year one. I get it. It's very difficult to do. They made us believe, which is a good thing, and then they lost their last 3 conference games, which is a bad thing.
Billy, another intriguing part of this is the way A&M is now recruiting nationally. A lot of those LA kids, the Hassan Longstreet story where he was committed to A&M, ends up at USC. So from a recruiting standpoint, there's some intriguing storylines there.
Yeah, just out west in general. I mean, they also recruited. They've got one committed in 26, and they signed Miles. So that's 2 out of Utah. They went and signed a highly regarded guy out of a defensive back out of Arizona, and then you mentioned they went into California for, what was it, 3 signees, and you mentioned Longstreet. He was the one that got away, but they're making an effort, and Coach Elko talked about it to Bronny and I the other day when we had him in studio, and it was, that was the that was kind of what he talked about. Like they see an opportunity out there. They see being one of the two furthest westernmost teams in the league. There's kind of a natural look out that way.
Yeah.
And I think especially with the death and destruction of the Pac-12. So, yeah, I think playing out west is something that probably Elko and his coaching staff embrace. And playing against USC, sure, gives you an opportunity to knock them down another peg. They had a rough year, like you said. I mean, oddly enough, we all started the year watching them play.
Beat LSU.
They beat LSU with the quarterback, like you said, with Miller Moss. It's no longer there. And then that game against Michigan was a heartbreaker, and that kind of set the tone for them after that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
They beat Wisconsin. They lose to Minnesota. Now look. This team, I watched the game against Penn State. They absolutely should have won that one. They should have beat Penn State. They should have beat Michigan. They've been a tough luck team, but then they go lose a 1-point game to Maryland. They handle Rutgers. They lose to not a good Washington team. Beat Nebraska in a close one, and then beat UCLA, and then got smoked by Notre Dame. Give up 50 to Notre Dame. 49 points to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's offense has gotten a lot better as the season's gone on. They absolutely have. They've done a good job up there, but USC just they lost a lot of close games, and then they could have maybe gone a little bit differently for them, but there's still a lot of talent there. They have not put it together under Lincoln for whatever reason.
I have not.
For whatever reason. I don't know how much longer he's there. He needs something to springboard into next year, just probably as much, if not more so, than the Aggies and Mike Elko.
What's so fun about fun? It can take any form. Be a sacred ritual.
Who wants chicken?
Or a random whim. For us, fun is everything. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
So I'm going to have an unpopular opinion, or it's not even an opinion, it's just a thought for a second, Billy. In today's world of college football, does being in the SEC, I know it matters. Please don't get me wrong when I'm thinking here, but with the resources that A&M has, I'm just seeing TCU get into the college football playoffs a couple years ago and getting to the championship game. I'm seeing SMU, and I'm just wondering to myself, would the way it's going now and the way money is spent now, does it matter your conference allegiance?
They need to make it matter more.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, it does. I would still say it does.
ACC got 2 teams in. The SEC got 3, and I understand the why behind it, but it just makes you pause for a second.
It does, but it was also that close to SEC getting 4 and the ACC getting 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think had there not been so many cowards on the committee, and that Ward Manuel, I still haven't figured out what the E is doing on the end of that name. It's silent E. Just listening to him talk just infuriates me. Seems like a nice enough guy. He's reminds me of a politician. It's just word salad. He doesn't know the answers people are asking him, and it is his not job, but if you want to be on that committee, because no one has forcibly placed you on that committee, you weren't hijacked and put up there. You could have said no. You're on that committee. You're speaking for the entire committee of just people that apparently don't know shit, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because you know why I know that? Because I hear them talk. And when people ask them the most basic questions, they don't, I say it's him. He does not give you an answer. It just reeks of incompetence and ineptitude on every level. I think the people that put together the playoff screwed it up, and they sucked. There's no reason you can tell me that I believe that those the top 4 seeds have to be conference champions. No one in that room could have put their hand up, because it tells me there's just such a level of stupidity and groupthink. And I don't know what they're doing in there that no one could raise their hand and go, guys, what if this happens? And just to say, are we really going to have Boise State and Arizona State get the byes when are we really going to give them the 3 and 4 spots and not, the SEC runner-up or the Big Ten runner-up or whatever happens? This situation was exactly what someone should have put their hand up and said, this isn't right. This is stupid. After watching everything and listening to Wardy Manuel, I'm like, just change it to 16. Everybody, 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, and all the way down, and you just play it like it's a Sweet 16 in basketball, and that's that. And then at least we're just arguing over seeding because like the 17th and 18th team aren't going to win a national title where you have to win that many games through. Like, just change it. Take the stupidity out of it.
Oregon got screwed. I'm looking at
Who?
Oregon.
Yeah.
They got screwed. They're the number 1 seed,
Yeah.
and they will face Ohio State, which can be a top 4
Or
seed.
Tennessee in the second,
Tennessee
yeah.
in the second.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think Texas, everybody knew the 5 seed was a beautiful seed. They got a great path to the semifinals. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did.
Clemson will be tough, but, I mean, that's a game they should win at home. Arizona State is your next game?
Yeah, because now, in fairness, if Texas would have, by definition of where they're at, in my theory, they would have been a top 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have been the team, So I don't think Texas. They didn't get the path that Penn State got.
SMU,
Penn
Boise
State
State.
loses their championship game, and they go SMU Boise to get to the semifinals. Now they'd run into Georgia. They might run into Georgia without Carson Beck. Who knows?
Right.
But so I think Penn State got it the easiest. I say that, and Penn State could lose to SMU in round 1. But Texas getting Clemson. Clemson's not very good. There's a case to be made. They were the 3rd best team in that conference.
Yep.
Possibly. I mean, they, credit Dabo and Cade Klubnik for winning that game, but Texas might be drawing what could possibly be the 3rd best team in the
ACC.
A conference that's significantly inferior to the SEC and the Big Ten this year. And then they'd get Arizona State, the Big 12 champ, in a disgustingly bad Big 12. Now, I watch Arizona State play.
They're fun.
They're fun. I think Scatabo is a great college back. And they've got it going with the coach and the energy down there. Like, that won't be.
Kenny Dillingham. He's great.
He's fun. That won't be a gimme, but Texas is playing 2 teams that they're significantly better than. Most have said they'll be double-digit favorites in each of those 2 games, which is a little interesting to me because they haven't been generally winning by a whole lot. I know they beat A&M by 10. It was and it's a great stop. No need to go crazy, but they were this far away from winning by 3, if at all. Arkansas, they held on, I think, to win 20 to
20 to
13,
10, I think.
20 to 10. Yeah, I think maybe it was 2010. Yeah. They're not like Georgia, obviously. Kentucky made it interesting there before they scored late. They're not dominating to be favored by that much, but they are that much better than those 2 teams, I believe, when you watch them. So I'm reluctant to give Texas the, quote, easy draw, although if they make it to the semifinals, they will be playing Oregon in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl if Oregon gets there. But Oregon, like you said, they got to get past Tennessee or Ohio State.
Yeah.
But they would be playing them at the Cotton Bowl. So, again, that draw continues to be
Favorable.
somewhat favorable. And then Georgia, you get a crack at them a 3rd time if they're able to get out of that because of the injury. So, but if it was the way I think it should be, Texas would be a top.
They should be a top 4
They would be a
seed.
top 4 seed. Now, should they be? It's a whole nother question.
I think they should be based on the way the season played out, but should they be based on who they beat? That's the other part
I
of
think
the
you'd
story.
have to go Oregon, Georgia. I mean, Texas might be your 3rd seed in that. It's crazy, though, because I watch the games and I go, the Longhorn defense it's elite. They have D linemen, they have interior, they have pass rushers, they have an all-world linebacker, they have a Thorpe Award finalist at DB, and they're really fast on the back end. That is an elite defense, and they've been in the same system for 4 years now. I think 4. If it's not 4, it's 3 under Kwiatkowski. So elite defense, veteran quarterback that I know a lot of Texas fans now have come around to agree with what I've been saying, that they're like this. He's like very up and down even within games, but they got a scoring problem.
They do.
And it'll be interesting to see if they can correct that in these playoffs, because they're not playing dominant defenses in Clemson or Arizona State. Even Oregon is more known for their offense than their defense. This team just gave up 30-something to Penn State. So there's a chance to get it right. It is crazy to me, though, that Texas, Indiana, Boise, and SMU, at a minimum, right, have combined to beat how many, and then Miami was ranked way up there too. How many ranked wins do those teams have combined? Like
0.
Maybe Indiana has 1. I don't know if they beat Illinois or not. Maybe Indiana has 1. So you've got at least 4 members of your playoff field that have a combined 0 or 1 wins, 0 or 1 win combined, a third of your playoff field against teams that are ranked in your top 25. The system is a little bit, they have the buffoons on the committee have not figured out. And again, does that drop Texas if you're really putting a microscope to them? Does that drop them from what would have been the 3rd seed to being maybe where they're at 5 or 6? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't think that's the one that matters so much, because you can watch them play and go, they lost to Georgia on the last play. Their only other loss was to Georgia. They did what SEC teams weren't able to do, which is survive it. But put that to SMU, and you're comparing them to Bama and South Carolina and Ole Miss. It's like, what has SMU done? They're fun, they're exciting, they're a great story. You don't want to punish them for losing the ACC title game, but what did they do? What have they done this year? They beat Louisville. How many other people beat Louisville? That's all they've done.
Yep.
They haven't beaten anyone else of note. So I don't. And then you got Alabama, which is Bama, Ole Miss, South Carolina have only themselves to blame. The only one I feel bad for is South Carolina, because they got robbed against LSU.
Yeah.
And they would be in this playoff. They got actually robbed against LSU, or they would be in this playoff. And they lost their quarterback early in that game, or they would be in this playoff.
I agree with you.
Bama and Ole Miss, you did it to yourselves. But when SMU's not playing anybody, when Miami's not playing anybody, when Indiana is not playing anybody and then lose to the one team they played, when Boise's in a conference where they're not playing anybody, all these things, and you're playing, so you're Ole Miss, okay, we lost at the Swamp. We lost to a bad Kentucky team. And they beat the brakes off of Georgia that beat Texas twice. Alabama, they lose to Vandy, they lose to OU. What a killer that was to lose to OU. But they lose to Vandy and lose to OU. I get why that should keep them out. But then I'm like, but yeah, they beat Georgia. They played in Knoxville. They played a rival in the Iron Bowl in Auburn. Who else did Bama beat that was good? They went into Death Valley at night and won that one.
Yep.
And there's somebody I'm forgetting, too, that Bama beat that's good. But so my point is, they went up to Madison, Wisconsin, and won in the non-conference. It's just they've got to do a better job of deciding that these games matter. Because if they don't, then A&M shouldn't play Notre Dame next year.
We won't go to 9-game SEC either.
They're not going to do that. You think Greg Sankey, he's going to be like, no. And then Texas shouldn't go play Ohio State. And listen, I got a lot of this today from people, and a lot of it on the burnt orange side. We're not scared. We'll go. I get it. I'm not scared either. First of all, because none of us play. So I hope you're not scared. Second, I would rather see A&M play Notre Dame.
But you're saying
I would rather see
as a point, though. You're making the point.
I would rather watch Texas and Ohio State play in the preseason. I would rather watch LSU and USC go at it to open my college football season. That's what I want to see. That's what fans want to see. These dumbasses on the committee, these blockheads, are going to ruin that because they're not good at what they are tasked to be good and be professionals at. They can't handle it. They need to do a better job of selecting a committee. There's got to be more people in there that will raise their hand and stand up and say, this is ridiculous. We're going to embarrass ourselves. And somebody's got to stand up and say, if you can't get in front of a camera and answer a damn question, we're going to remove you this week and put someone else in there that can. No one wants to be tough in that room and do something like that. And I'm sorry if anyone's in that room that I know and I haven't even looked at the list yet. I apologize, but it doesn't change my opinion. I think you've made a laughing stock of yourselves in front of the whole country. And I watch people try to interview you guys on ESPN, and it's like these announcers are tiptoeing around trying to not make you look bad because they know you can't answer anything. So I don't even know why I'm that passionate about it. A&M's not in the conversation, nor do I think they should have been. So it's not even, but I've been watching it, and it gets more and more frustrating to me at the level of incompetence I'm watching in the sport that I love, the sport that we all love. So, yeah, I love watching A&M and Notre Dame play. I loved watching, Texas play Alabama last September. I liked watching Georgia play Clemson this year. LSU and USC, like I said. LSU and Florida State last year. Like, we all love that stuff. But I bet every coach in the SEC right now, David, would raise their hand and go, if it was up to me, I wouldn't play that game.
Right.
It does us no good. And all the fans, and you can stand up if your team's good, you'd be like, I'll play anybody. Again, you're not playing. But for these coaches, and here's what it matters to. Let's say Texas had lost to Michigan. Okay? That loss to Georgia might have put them out. Probably not, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hey,
there's a scenario.
There's a tipping point where losing to Michigan would have put them out. Or had Georgia lost to Clemson, it might have put them out. Like they were in. Everybody felt Georgia's in when they were playing Texas. Even if they lost yesterday, they're in, right? 100% they were in. Had they lost to Georgia Tech in that last game in 8 overtimes,
they would have had to
and then lost to Texas, they're out. So why play Georgia Tech? Well, we know why. It's a rival. It's in-state. People are passionate about it. People care. People enjoy it.
But why?
But if you're Kirby Smart, why do you play? Because here's what's at stake. You go to the playoffs or you don't. It's NIL commitments from your donor base. It's excitement. It's recruiting wins. It's coaches trying to hang on to their jobs. It's universities paying exorbitant buyouts when coaches don't reach the play. So it's Greg Sankey in the SEC getting 3 instead of 4. So why would anyone in this league, or even the Big Ten for that matter, do it? Why wouldn't you all go the Penn State route and play nobody? No one. Why wouldn't you go and it's funny for me to see Lane Kiffin bitch, because he played nobody in 4 games. No single body. He has the least to complain about. But why play these teams? I get it. Like, hey, South Carolina helped their cause by beating Clemson. They really made a statement. But, I mean,
it makes sense.
Was it good for Clemson to play that game? Was it good?
Right.
Had South Carolina been 9-2 going into that game and lost to Clemson, you're going, why'd you play it, man?
Billy, it makes sense.
You just played nobody.
It makes sense for the have-nots, not for the haves.
Yeah.
If you're at Bama or Georgia, a team that's knocking on the door of the playoffs, it doesn't make sense.
But it could get anyone in the SEC on the right year, and it could get anyone in the Big Ten. So, yes, you should just do the Penn State route. If you look at their schedule this year, you should do the Indiana route. If you look at their schedule, and you should go or you could do what my friend said. His suggestion, he's so beaten down, he suggested A&M he said he's going to talk to Trev about having A&M just go down to D3 and just play and just win a bunch of championships, and everyone's happy because you get to win. He's like, he's just given up. And it's such a battered Aggie thing. But the reality is you're not going down, not to that. I'm saying you're not going to play in the Big 12. You're not going to play in the ACC. You're not going to play in any of these other conferences. Right. You're in the SEC. You're A&M, and if you're in the SEC and you're in the Big 10 right now, it doesn't make sense because there's always going to be an SMU or a Boise, or whether it's an Army, or whether it's I don't know who it could have been. It could have been one of these Big 12 secondary teams that did it. Had one. Somebody's always going to be there to keep that fourth SEC or that fourth Big 10 team out. So why be that team when it just, frankly, it doesn't matter? I get it. It's not as fun. I mean, you plug in Utah State in there. If you're one of these other teams, do you want to you play the Texas A&M Aggies, or you go play the Utah State Aggies? Because at the end of the day, no one's holding it against you. You play the Utah State Aggies. Ole Miss played no one. And had they lost to a bad Kentucky team, and who was their second loss to?
They beat Georgia. They lost to
LSU.
Yeah.
They lose to an 8-4 LSU team and a bad Kentucky team. And had they just beaten Florida, they're 1,000% in the playoff, period, with eyes on a national title. And no one would ever have said, ever, but man, you played such bad non-conference teams. Because the committee and the guy running it or speaking for it, they essentially said that wouldn't have mattered because that doesn't matter. And that, to me, it's pitiful. And it's a black eye for the sport. And I'm excited about this playoff. I'm as excited as you can be without so whatever the level is that you go, you're not in it, your arch rival is, whatever that is, that's as high as I am on it. Like I'm excited to see. It's wide open. Anyone can win it. There's some really intriguing matchups and stuff. I don't know. You look at the field. Tell me what are some matchups you see.
I love the Ohio State-Tennessee first-round matchup.
That's a strong.
That is a semifinal level matchup.
Yeah, I may or may not have bet just $100 on Tennessee to win the whole thing, to win like 2,000.
I love Clemson, Texas.
Born in Detroit.
I don't think Clemson's very good, but I still think they're a brand, and that's a heck of a first-round matchup.
I like the brand. I like Dabo versus Sark. I love Klubnik versus Ewers.
Yeah, there's some
rematch of
there.
A state title game.
Yeah.
The Austin guy going home, try to knock off the team that didn't want him, and they took Ewers instead of him. I know Ewers did a pit stop at Ohio State, but you get what I'm saying. Ton of storylines there. Obviously, the SMU storyline's great. I think SMU Penn State will be a hell of a football game.
It'll be fun.
Might be snowing in Happy Valley.
I don't really care about Indiana Notre Dame. I'll watch it. I don't care about it. I am very interested in what Notre Dame Georgia could look like if Notre Dame beats
Notre Dame Georgia might be 6-3.
It'd be fun though.
That game, those two defenses.
Boise State, SMU potentially in the second round. Like, that's just one of those teams is going to. Well, I think Penn State should be able to get there.
Penn State getting there, and Penn State Georgia would be pretty fascinating. Let's be real, okay? And we get more and more people right now from other fan bases listening, which I really appreciate because 99% of them are great. Some of them are better than a couple of the Aggies who commented about me, so sometimes it's better to stay above this than go below it, as tempting as it is. But people listening, look, let's be real clear. I would love to see my Longhorn friends happy. I would love to see Texas not beat Clemson more. But as a football fan, I would love to see, and I expect we'll see it, to see Texas and Oregon.
In the semis.
I'd probably try to go to that football game. Texas and Oregon in the Cotton Bowl, and those two offense, even though, like I said, the Texas offense, again, this is where the Longhorns, I think, are kind of underestimating because of the path they've gotten, this SEC thing. And credit them for winning the games, but they're playing some really good defenses that are making this offense look different. I know, like they ran up and down the field against A&M, but when push came to shove, they get a sack on a great hit to knock the ball loose. They get a pick six on a tipped ball because you have athletes that can do that and pick them. Texas has them too. That's why Texas was able to get a goal line stop there and win the game with some fourth down stops. But I want to see that is an exciting matchup. If you got a Final Four of like Georgia, I guess Penn State, because who else comes out of there to make it? Like Georgia, Penn State, Oregon, and Texas, that'd be a hell of a semifinal. Same with an Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Georgia. There's a lot of options. Not as many as there should be the way they set it up and the teams they left out. But, again, take me back to the 16-team playoff, and we're talking about Alabama getting a new lease on life. We're talking about a red-hot South Carolina team in it. We're talking about Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss
SEC teams
having a chance to right what went wrong and letting Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart be the bad guys and see what happens.
And who else?
That was a good question. I was wondering that. Is it Miami?
I think Miami would be the next team. So the ACC would get 3.
I'm probably forgetting like somebody from one of the lesser.
Army?
They'd be arguing for it. I'd have to think it would be Miami, though. But, yeah, imagine Cam Ward in it. South Carolina, as hot as they are right now. Bama, the brand, and kind of like getting to try to come in and play the villain again, and then Ole Miss. And then I just think it would be so much better that way. So you'd have a 1 versus 16 game. It might be Oregon versus, imagine like Oregon versus, you might have Oregon versus, say, Miami. I mean, I'm not looking at the rankings. You guys, I understand some of this is going to be wrong. But Oregon versus Miami. And then, like, Georgia might be playing Ole Miss again.
Right.
Or you might have Georgia versus Ole Miss. You might have Texas versus Bama. These are your first-round games? Are you kidding me? I mean, and I hated 16.
Hey, let me ask you this. Why stop at 16, though?
Because get number of games.
Well, I'm just saying, like, why not go, I don't know what the number would be, 26, 25, whatever, because then you bring back some more relevant bowl games, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I think you would do that just going to 16. I mean, you're playing 8 first-round games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're playing 8 first-round games.
So nobody gets a bye in that
4 second-round games. So you've got, am I wrong math here? Is that 15 games you're playing?
Yeah.
15 playoff games. So, I mean, that would be every bowl game that matters worth a damn. You really play the first 8 on the home campus, right? And then you'd play the 4, the 2, and the 1. You'd play those 7 in the bowl games. So that would you'd essentially have your whole New Year's 6 now in a championship game. Isn't that what they're doing anyway? I think that's what they're doing anyway. You could still play the bowl games. You're literally just adding 4. You're taking 4 teams out of the bowl pool. That's all you're doing. I didn't think I'd want that, but after seeing these yahoos try to run it, I'm like, rather than try to get that formula to work, because that group's going to be ever changing. I think it was Caroline Fenton that said today, it's not like quit worrying about precedent. They're not the Supreme Court. It's not like we've got these justices sitting on the for lifetime terms, until they expire. Like, they're going to rotate this thing. So rather than let them just kind of hope that they do better, let's fix this thing and bump it up to 16. It's going to happen. Just do it now. Rip the Band-Aid off. 12-team playoff needs to go away. And even if it doesn't, at least do away with this auto I like the auto bid. I do. I'm fine with the auto bid. Do away with the automatic top 4 seeding for the conference champs because all conferences are not. They're not even close to created equal.
Yep.
Not even close. Like what Arizona State had to go through to get there, and what Boise State had to go through to get there out of the G, to give that to a G5 or whatever we're calling them now. For them to be in the top 4 it's shameful. It's stupid. It's ridiculous.
All right, Billy, let's close out with this. You guys had a great week with signing day and keeping us informed, but now we're turning the page to the portal, and I guess that starts tonight. It opens up officially at midnight.
Turn the page. We also met Bob Seger, which was I'll tell the Seger story later, but that's a great song. You probably don't even know it, do you?
If you played it, I'd know it.
Here I am,
face to face, a couple of silver
again.
spoons.
No.
Oh.
All right. I'm done. You just desecrated Bob C. So, signing day was great.
So hot.
It's so hot in here, dude. I can't even. Like, I thought he was, like, I'm looking at the damn text, and you wouldn't let me take my jacket off. I'm texting him now. Well, we wanted you to turn it down, but obviously.
I think he did for a little bit. I think he put it down for a few minutes.
Josh is like, you like the Rudolph show? What is it? It's Christmas time. Remember the Heat Miser?
No, I have no idea what you're
You
talking
don't remember the Heat Miser?
No.
People remember the Heat Miser. The guy, he's got like the flame head.
Yes, okay.
And
now.
it's the claymation, like Rudolph thing.
Yeah.
Josh is the damn Heat Miser. Like, I appreciate it as him being a fellow owner of the company that he doesn't want to leave the AC running on weekends and after. But if you come in here, guys, y'all do not understand how hot it is in here. And apparently you guys have abused the AC so much that this guy has now commandeered it.
I agree. It's our fault.
And he's like sitting at home, probably watching.
He's mad at
and
us
he's
now.
controlling like he's the damn Wizard of Oz.
I think it got a little cooler. He must be listening.
See, he really did. He's like the Wizard of Oz back here controlling the temperature, just burning us out. He's probably like, you guys are using too much electricity. I'm going to burn you out, shorten the show.
Thank you, Josh.
What's going to be exciting when the AC is on is we're going to be talking a lot this week about the transfer portal. It opens up, so recruiting's over. Mike Elko he took time out to come over here, and he and I walked outside on the way out. He's like, yeah, I'm going to meet with this. All the families of the players, or the players and or their families of guys they're trying to keep on the roster. They haven't lost anyone yet. And I say yet, I don't mean to leave this big cliffhanger there. I don't mean there's a couple guys that you don't want to lose that they're trying to keep to stay, and it's not like they've got one foot out the door. But this is a constant negotiation, and they're trying to keep certain guys, but no one that's left. I know fans have their favorites, and you saw this guy make 2 great catches in fall camp, and despite the fact that I told you that was way down on the receiving depth chart, you thought there was promise that he's going to be great, or I sat here and told you somebody was going to be great because they came in and made a strong first impression. Like, I wish Malik Silla would have stayed and given them a more depth as pass rush, but some of these guys have to go out in search of playing time. Like Gabe Brownlow-Dindy, I would have loved to see, but he wasn't playing. He wasn't in the rotation, and he's looking at it, and there's a clock ticking, and they go, yeah, some of these guys, they say, you probably should go on. You need to play college football. You deserve that chance. You're a great worker. So nothing that's happened as of we're recording this is something that I would determine a loss that they either weren't expecting or that shook them.
Right.
But so what Mike Elko's been doing ever since from even before, but signing day, Wednesday afternoon and night on, has been working to make sure they retain all the guys that they want to retain. And then you do as much of that as you can before tonight at midnight, And it's not going to be done. There's going to be more that needs to be done. But you do as much of that as you can, and then, boom, you cut off, and it's portal time, man.
Yep.
And A&M will have visitors this weekend. Brawny, some of these names have leaked out, but Brawny will have full update tomorrow. Some of the names we're hearing are type guys that are going to get Aggie fans really excited. And I had someone that kind of knows, since, like, if we get, if the Aggies get half of the names I'm hearing, it will be a hell of a portal haul. And that's probably realistic. Like, you might get 35% of them. So if you get half, it'll be a hell of a portal haul. And I mean, these are guys that, like, I think A&M is in pretty damn good shape with. And some of these names will and would surprise you. And then some of them are just going to be people you know. I think they're, just in terms of, like, name recognition, not that it matters. I mean, look at Coley this year that started basically every game for you at center. Look at B.J. Mays and how much he helped. And look,
Cassius
Howell, massive play there against Texas, right? Almost helped you win the game against Auburn with a big play. But I think you'll also see more of these just well-known guys that'll get the fans excited and stuff. But that doesn't matter. I mean, look, receiver's a massive point of need. You may need a veteran. You might need a veteran backup QB just to fill out your room. I think you got to take a look at, like, running back. That depends, I think, a whole bunch on Le'Veon Moss and what they know about his status in terms of
right.
Will he be all the way back to start the season? I think he will. Things like that, but
D-line.
I could see them adding an O-lineman because they're going to lose a lot of their depth on the O-line. And like I said, Trey Zune will have a big decision to make, as will Armaje Reed-Adams. That could swing things significantly either way. Their decision is NFL or stay. They're having conversations with Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart. I'm not saying anything will happen there, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. So what do you need on the edge? What do you need to replace on the D-line? So there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot. Interestingly enough, I think DB will be a lesser need.
Yeah.
Now, you're always trying to get a best player type thing, but DB will be a slightly lesser need this time around. But I think receiver, tight end, maybe an O-lineman, and depending on what happens with your guys, D-line will be a point of emphasis.
A lot more of this tomorrow on TexAgs Live, and we'll have all week to talk about the bowl game. We'll have a couple weeks to talk about the bowl game. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors. Thank you to Rollo Insurance for the studio. See you next time.
Fun, memories, friendship. We're here for all of it. Here for the big moments and the small ones too. We're here for unforgettable triumph, momentary misfortune, and the impromptu throwdown. We're out here each day, chasing something great. Call it adventure, call it play, we call it fun. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.